most of these AIs are black box models, which means you can train, you understand the outputs only up to a certain point, and then it learns and builds on its own. And after a point, you don't know what it's spewing up. Is it correct or is it not? Right? So that becomes a very, very significant challenge. Second is it amplifies biases. Right? Aditya is used to hiring, I don't know, I'm just kind of making it up, South Indians with a certain kind of a background, and it's teaching its AI to do the same. Suddenly you realize, the AI, the bias that's built in the AI is to be able to find South Indians with what Aditya wants to hire for.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and my fellow panelists. Thank you so much for being here today. And we're going to be talking about a very relevant topic. I don't know how much of you guys would love to kind of make this session interactive around, algorithm HR and AI, typically which will help us bridging the future of work. So thank you so much, for taking our time and talking to us today. And before I start the session, actually I want to talk about, start with a rapid fire round, and typically pick up one word which you guys think about Algo HR and about Metaverse, which comes to your mind. Yeah? So Aditya, let's start with you.
Scary.
Yeah, we heard of that. What about you, Viekas?
It's exciting.
Yeah?
It's disruptive.
It's autonomous yet painful.
Fabulous. I think we've got all dimensions here, yeah, of what we're going to talk about today. So that's great. And so now, as much as there's so much said and done about Algo HR and about Metaverse, about AI, I'd like to start, Ruchi, with you in terms of sharing with us, how do you think Algo HR can effectively integrate into, HR processes to streamline employee life cycle, right from the time of joining till the time, the person leaves an organization. So,
Okay, so after Prateek's session, this is going to be a tough one, and especially when he was making full fun of technology and disruption. Okay, coming from a technology background, I think from where we come in Orange, I think the expectation is also that, AI and algorithms have to touch every part of the employee life cycle. By the way, a couple of things that we have really done well is from a recruitment. I'll start from a recruitment perspective, wherein, earlier I used to headhunt for recruiters who will be very, very good in Boolean search strings and who can do the headhunting very well. Thank you to our all AI algorithms, wherein all that can be done on a flick of a button, right? So we definitely use AI when it comes to hunting candidates and sourcing candidates. We also use algorithms and AI when it comes to interviewing and scheduling. And we do have a couple of tools which are working very well. Coming to the other part of the life cycle around employee engagement, I think engagement bots, and even in terms of how are we able to understand the pulse on the ground is definitely being used very well from an AI perspective. Third part which I'll touch is around data analytics and how do we take data-driven decisions with huge amount of data, and how do you let them speak to each other and come up with an analysis is another area wherein AI and machine learning is something that we are really, really targeting on. So in Orange, I would just summarize and say that it is touching each and every domain. Not that we have gone there and we are at a perfect mode, but at least the intent has been that we integrate AI into all processes in the employee life cycle.
That's a good start. That's, Orange is a telecom company, and I think you're the torchbearers from that perspective. And Aditya, do you want to come in? Do you want to, kind of share some use case, something in your,
I think just kind of building on Ruchi's point, today the ability to consume this data has just increased so exponentially. In the past, there were people who were churning, analyzing, calculating information. What this technology has actually done for us is first super specialize, super personalize, not specialize, super personalize it. So when it comes to learning, you know, earlier you had to identify what kind of training courses, what kind of, and then connect the dots for each and every employee. Today, AI and a good recommendation engine automatically starts throwing up the courses, not too different from Netflix, to say what do you need to look at, how, you know, for your career journey. So you can define your aspirations, and then AI, a good LXP tool today will be able to do that. So the learning is a big use case. As Ruchi mentioned, talent acquisition is a big use case. We very recently went to campuses, and we were very worried that, you know, the number of people we need on each of these campuses, so that we can kind of sift through the number of interviews, discussions, and we used an AI tool, right, which kind of not only looked at the number of candidates, interviewed the candidates, identified the broad spectrum of candidates who would fit our profile, and then eventually we went and met those candidates. And this was from a wide range of engineering college to management colleges, and the feedback that we got was, it was quite bang on, right? You know, students came back and said, you know, this was one of the most engaging kind of conversations we had. So you have a lot of optionality available. So personalization becomes a very, very big thing. I think scaling becomes a big thing, right? So in a campus where we may have had to carry or go with 10, 12, 15 people, suddenly you have a tool that does most of the heavy lifting, and then you can do stuff on it. So I think there is a lot of optionality on one, personalization, the second, scaling, that the AI gives us.
I think I totally agree on that, and everybody of us are really seeing the success of ChatGPT as OpenAI as a big example. And just picking up from that, Aditya, what do you think in your mind are the potential benefits and drawbacks of using this AI, which you just spoke about, you know, in terms of looking at employee performance, evaluation, workforce planning? You know, one is the benefits you talk about. What do you think some of the other benefits or drawbacks in your mind?
So I think the big benefit, obviously, I talked about scale and personalization. They're very big benefits. I think the other big benefit that we get out here is ability to consume a lot of information and make sense out of it, which was not really possible in the past. It's available today. These are some of the benefits. I think it's a double-edged sword. There is a lot of element of biasness that you have in selection, which could potentially be reduced by something like this. You know, there's certain gender-neutral job descriptions that you can create, because we know that the way the job description is written, it may be perceived differently by a man and a woman. So you have the ability to remove that bias, and it's a big arsenal available to the HR professionals going forward, right? So that's a big positive, I think. I think there are really big negatives also, and that's the reason why the one-word answer was scary, right? So one of the big negatives is most of these AIs are black box models, which means you can train, you understand the outputs only up to a certain point, and then it learns and builds on its own. And after a point, you don't know what it's spewing up. Is it correct or is it not? Right? So that becomes a very, very significant challenge. Second is it amplifies biases. Absolutely. Right? Aditya is used to hiring, I don't know, I'm just kind of making it up, South Indians with a certain kind of a background, and it's teaching its AI to do the same. Suddenly you realize, you know, the AI, the bias that's built in the AI is to be able to find South Indians with what Aditya wants to hire for, because he's seeing success, or the AI is seeing success consistently there. So there is a definite amplification of biases is a big drawback in an AI kind of platform, right? The second big drawback is data. The amount of data it consumes and how it kind of spits out data. What are the data models behind it? What's the security behind it is not very clear. We were having this conversation, and for all of you, we were having this conversation earlier, where there is a time frame between when technology becomes relevant and governance catches up or laws catch up. And that time frame is the gray area, which is the worst for an HR professional, right? You have to take judgment calls, and you were taking judgment calls with the best intent, but it's absolutely gray. You got nothing to hold on to. I think, we will struggle as a leadership team, we'll struggle in that space quite a bit. So that's the second big drawback that I see. The third drawback is, I think the line between what is real and blur will continue to blur. And I can show it to you a little bit later, but I have a video where we made a CFO say a lot of interesting things, and that wasn't the CFO, right? So tomorrow you may be interviewing a candidate who may not be the candidate. He may look like the candidate, he may have the skills of the candidate. We know ChatGPT kind of aces most of the exams right now. Tomorrow it may have a face, right? So there is that. So that's my view on pitfalls of the benefits and pitfalls.
Anybody else? Ruchi, Viekas, do you want to?
So just add, sorry.
Go ahead.
So just adding for the perspective of, I represent the agri input industry. So, with the intervention into data mingling and, algorithms which will help us, the AI to get us closer to what the nature is going to give us. I'm just taking an example of a rainfall versus a flood, So both rainfall is a boon for our industry because of the crop growth, but at the same time floods are, they can disrupt. So how closely we are able to get this closer to the natural changes which are happening is also very, very important for our industry particularly. Now, this also has a direct implication on our workforce because at the production side, we have a huge number of casual workforce, which are very seasonal in nature. Now, we put it as per the season, like before rainfall, we'll have a certain seasonal. Now, these fluctuations also help us disrupt because eventually these workforces will move out to some other places where they'll get settled and then they'll come back during the seasons. Now, some kind of data algorithms which can help us to predict this also helps us to create more continuity plans with our product and production.
I think just to add, apart from speed, quality, efficiency, benefits are quite a lot for us, especially in the technology domain. I think the key drawback is something around data security, which is definitely a big threat and we need to be cautious about. The other thing that we face is that, a lot of organizations in a hurry to adopt a lot of AI platforms, it becomes too much of different tools which at times don't speak to each other. And that is an integration that we have to do with APIs and XYZ to bring in under one common umbrella. And the third part that we see in the workforce is with multi-generation workforce being there, the appetite to embrace technology is different and it moves at a different pace. So that is another thing that we need to look at from an integration point of view.
And I think the data accuracy, it's still a big question mark. It's still evolving. So that's a big concern that we have to all deal with. Of course, it's improving by the day. So ChatGPT versions have changed in the last 2 to 3 months in 4 to 5 folds, if not more. And so has data accuracy on all AI platforms because AI is just not one platform. It's multiple platforms. And to Ruchi's point, yes. It's something that we are all dealing with and we'll reach somewhere, but it's continued to evolve for some time. But definitely there are pros and cons that we all are getting used to right now.
Good, thank you. And Viekas, so the next question is for you. Now that you mentioned about the challenges from an agri-tech perspective, so in what ways do you think can Algo HR impact diversity and inclusion efforts in your organization? And what steps you can take to mitigate some of the biases in the system which Aditya was also talking about, right? When you hire, you have some biases and that kind of creep into the whole model. So how do you do that?
So this is a very interesting perspective, particularly to our industry, because we have started touching this as a tip of the iceberg right now. In terms of looking at gender diversity. And Agrotech never looked at it. And when we really looked at it, we looked at challenges. One, as an evolution in terms of who our candidate is, how do we build and retain our employees, and third is how do we potentially create opportunities in the market to bring in a gender diversity perspective. And when we look at this, AI plays a very, very important role. In fact, when you see the discovery stage, evolution and prediction is very important, right? How do you predict the change? Now, I'll just take a few examples in terms of how do I look at my candidates who are across the country, right? Who are, one, interested in being on the rural side, how many candidates would like to be in the fields, away from air conditioners, amongst the rural population. Now, that psyche is very different. And when it comes to a diverse candidate, we need to build that kind of momentum to see who are people who are actually, who are having a mindset to be on that side of the country, right? That is very important. So I think that is one productivity analysis we can do with a lot of information coming through AIs. And information could be through primary and secondary sources coming to us. Second is a very big factor, and when I talk to all my industry leaders, comes as security, especially when you talk of women gender, because when it comes to rural side, there could be remote sites, there could be exposures on the remote side, and we need to ensure that people are secured, right? How do we connect with people? Because they need to travel a lot. So how do we ensure that they are able to travel? So I think from a knowledge perspective and data perspective, we need to know who are the people who are the ladies who are young mothers, what kind of support they need. Can I give caregiving during their travel? And recently we did a small survey with one of our teams in Hyderabad, and we looked at Hyderabad has good women population. We looked at providing a travel benefit for the caregiving, and suddenly the travel of women went up by 25-30% in the region. And so just by giving that support, we could build in more, credibility with the woman to travel. And, so similarly, we look at local village girls, because each of the villages have our farmers who are consumers. So we look at local village girls to be deployed by us, who could be trained to work with farmers. And AI becomes a very important tool for us to gauge the kind of potential candidates we could have across all the place. So it brings in, one, the database to us. Second, it brings in predictability. Third, it brings us the potential risks, which we may try to mitigate through our plans to be able to build this in future.
Can I add?
No, please.
So I think, and obviously I don't know that industry at all, so I'm going to stay clear of it completely. But for me, when I think about biases that are there, a lot of the biases are ingrained because middle-aged men, not unlike folks sitting here, are taking calls on people who they don't understand well enough, right? And I think AI can help add a veneer in front so that middle-aged men who are in the place to take powerful decisions are at least well informed that the decision has a certain degree of bias built into it. So that's one, I think. I think the second area is a lot of the bias creeps in because of information asymmetry. Not adequate amount of information is available to a man and a woman, right? And today technology to a very, very large extent can bridge that gap. So that could potentially, and as I'm thinking about this, I think that could be a way to bridge a bias. I remember I I was traveling, I was in Bhutan, and we were in a small little village. It was a really small village. And we were staying in a homestay, and this kid must be about 6 years old, spoke impeccable English with an American accent. And I was curious, you know, you don't expect a kid in a village in Bhutan to speak with an impeccable American accent. And then I was talking to his mother, and she says he just spends most of his days watching YouTube, right? And that's been, so, you know, it was like a aha moment for me. Because there is telecom connectivity, because there is access, this kid probably has now a much better chance to be successful in, he would have been successful, but in the mainstream.
Absolutely.
I think that's what the power of AI and technology could be, right? So, just to add.
Just to kind of add a few things to how DEI and AI can work together. A lot of organizations are struggling to add, say, more women population. You can put those kind of filters and it can throw data. There are organizations which are operating at gender neutrality. Yeah? Then even your job descriptions, the way they are written today, can actually appeal to a certain gender, or you don't want to ask people to specify their gender. So all these things are actually easily doable with a AI tool. The other thing is, I think in DEI, a very important part is inclusion and equity as well. It's just not about diversity. So a pay, equity in terms of compensation without gender can easily be done again through a ChatGPT, through an AI model. It is not putting that number on it basis the gender of that person. So those biases actually creep out. So there is a big plus. Again, today, in today's world, we are actually talking to global citizens every day. I mean, we have people, you know, operating. A lot of our shared services are sitting out of Philippines and Budapest and other places who are actually answering to our people. Yeah? And again, you're not thinking about who's answering there. So it's not just about. So through AI, you're actually taking off boundaries also in true sense, and DEI is actually creeping in a very positive manner too.
Fabulous, some great examples here, yeah. And so the next question is for you, Deepali. So how do you think the Algo HR can really be used as a good tool for organizations? How it is helping you in terms of improving productivity of the workforce?
I think Ritu started with how it has helped them in recruitment. It's of course made it much faster. I was in a session in the morning somewhere else, and there was a CEO, and he said that I'm talking to you because I just went on ChatGPT and I said I need to talk about these 5 things. And instead of doing my research, I had this whatever I'm talking to you, whatever I've just said today, it was done in 25 minutes. Now, I didn't spend 5 hours researching this discussion. So imagine that is the power of AI, and I'm just telling you an example which just happened today morning. I think what is important is that it is making us faster, but at the same time, human and technology will stay together. Technology will be like another employee sitting with us and operating. And we will also be looking at ROI, and we do look at ROI there. So it's making us faster, it is making us very agile, it is making us do things in a certain quality data manner, it is helping our decisions. I come from the hospitality industry now, where it's not only about your customer satisfaction, of course that's very important, but customer satisfaction also leads to a guest experience and satisfaction. Now how can you track that? How do you correlate both these things together? AI really is very, very helpful in that sense. And it's not only about employee productivity, it's how your business impact is happening because of that productivity. Your booking systems, your guest experience, the feedback that comes, the way you are able to actually act on that because it is all real time through AI, that helps us a lot. Performance metrics are not that mid-year or year-end anymore. You're talking about performance real time. It throws feedback to the individual. It also throws certain trends to the manager. If a manager is not a great manager, just for as an example, and the team is saying that there is somebody who can look at it and kind of correct it, because and the dynamics have an impact right from the manager to the last person in the team. And so many, for example, if I know that there's a next shift that is happening and I'm going to have a manpower issue in the next shift, I can do that with the predictive analysis that the AI can throw up for us, which means that action happens before the situation happens. And hence, it can be productive in any area that you can look at, in all aspects. So it is a business imperative. It's no more something that kind of helps us integrate, not anymore. It has a direct business impact.
I think, Deepali made a point which, as I was thinking about what you were saying, think about it. Today we have good managers, bad managers, and terrible managers. More terrible managers and bad managers than the really good ones, right? It could be possible that you're sitting as a manager having a conversation with an employee and your phone may be giving you real-time prompts of saying, look, I think your employee is under stress. Maybe you should kind of hold off a little bit and be a little bit more empathetic. That real-time nudges or the tool that kind of realizes that, you're not connecting enough with your team. Your conversations are limited to 2 people or 3 people in the team, but you have a 20-member team. Please go connect, right? These real-time nudges were virtually impossible to do in the past. It was an HR guy and the manager's nightmare. Yeah. But today you have tools that could potentially do that. And that is becoming possible with the vast amount of computing power and AI that's built behind it. So, yeah, sorry.
And I was sharing it with some of my co-panelists as well. COVID happened, yeah, and businesses came to a stall, and I was at a real estate firm at that time. And our clients actually did very big, massive deals because of AI, because of virtual reality. Yeah, they did not come and see any location, but the deal was done. So that's how a business happened. Somebody shared an example with me about Tesla, that the person was actually driving a car in the middle of US in some remote location and the car kind of conked off. Called in, the AI spoke to him, he explained the problem, and he could fix the problem and move on. They didn't wait for somebody to come and take the vehicle away or to tell them what needs to be done or a mechanic needs to come. It makes your daily life easier as well. Yeah.
I think it is also shaping the future, right? I mean, we are a GCC, so a Global Capability Center. I think the jobs are evolving and we are moving up the value chain. The kind of roles that we were doing a couple of years back for the headquarters and for the global teams, that has really, really evolved. Now we have an incubation center for automation and we have n number of automation related things, plus the manual things which were like basic data entries and all have all moved into an AI, and the task force is doing much more value-driven things. So it's actually shaping the future in terms of the job market as well.
Just one point on the productivity I wanted to make, that we are changing our model of distribution. Earlier our focus was only typically our distributors, and now the model is completely focused onto the consumer, which is farmer and the retailers. So every retailer, we deploy delivery vans and we deploy our boys to be serving each retailer, which was not happening. Now, AI really helps us to track this productivity at the retailer level as well as farmer consumption level. Earlier, it was completely missing in our industry. We could only track the stocks at the distributor, and that's how, targets were given to people and people were given incentives basis that. Now, today, our incentives are moving, our productivity for people is moving down to the consumption level. That means the stock level which a retailer is maintaining versus distributor, and how much is going to the farmer. Now this whole predictive and reactive analysis is kind of becoming really active on the ground with some of the AI now and in future as we are evolving.
My God, I'm hearing some great examples of how productive and how the tool can really help us become more efficient in whatever we do. Thank you. I think with this we come to an end to this panel discussion, but I think it has been most engaging. thank you all of you for making. And I heard Aditya going from scary to being bullish. So, so in 45 minutes we've got him to change his mind. So thank you so much. For bringing such a wide perspective about how AI and HR can really help make our life better. Thank you for that. Thank you so much.